President Trump commented on North Korea and inflamed tensions colossally. Let's see what he had to say.
Any comment on the report about North Korea's nuclear capabilities?
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly, power, the likes of which this world has never seen before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He's basically handling the situation with North Korea in the worst possible way. You couldn't come up with a hypothetical, theoretical way of handling this situation in a worse way. So North Korea, you have a child dictator. I mean, that's what he is. The guy's like in his 20s, right? He inherited a fucking country in his 20s. His people in North Korea view him as a demigod. They've been pumping out propaganda for decades and decades and decades about the Kim family. He's unstable. He's been told, hey, you're a demigod and the U.S. wants to bomb you and topple you his entire life. And instead of trying to find a path to de-escalate the situation, to open up the lines of communication, to do diplomacy and negotiations, he's going in the opposite direction. He's repeatedly prodded them on Twitter, where he openly talks about, well, hey, what maybe regime change is on the table. Maybe we should talk about regime change. Okay, that's the same kind of hyperbolic language that they use when they're trying to puff their chest out and like, oh, yeah, don't mess with us. Now, when they do that, they're a gnat of a country, and it's like obvious insecurities coming out, and they're posturing to try to be like, don't fuck with us, man. We'll come after you or something. Yeah, that's what we'll do. And they do that because, again, their military isn't powerful at all. Their economy is tiny. They're a hermit kingdom. Have you ever seen the maps at night of North Korea versus South Korea and how North Korea has all the lights off because they don't have a developed electric grid? It's a hostage crisis of a country. So they're not a problem unless we make them one, even with all their huffing and puffing every now and then. You know, the U.S. media treats it like, oh my God, no, seriously, they might attack Toledo any minute now. No, they're not going to do that. The only way they'd ever do something like that is if they feel super threatened and they think that we're going to come after them, in which case they'd probably launch on Seoul, South Korea, and you're putting thousands of people in South Korea in danger. And it's just reckless. Like, what he's doing here is reckless. Look, I'm going to speak about this more in a little bit, but here's the way that you should handle North Korea. Any way possible to try to have diplomacy and negotiations and conversations to, just come to a mutual understanding and agreement and just stabilize the situation. That's preferable. But in absence of that, you know what you do? Here's the politically incorrect opinion, which is undoubtedly right on this. You do nothing. Wait, what? Kyle, how can you say that? North Korea, oh my God, what are you, all the people who are suffering there, what do you got to stop it? Look, there are so many people suffering there, and my heart genuinely bleeds for them. But you can't trust the humanitarian motives of the U.S. government to, we're going to go liberate people. What do you mean we're going to go liberate people? We're buddy-buddy with Saudi frickin' Arabia. They're oppressing their people in a horrific way. They basically have an ultra-conservative interpretation of Sharia in law. Women are second-class citizens. We look the other way with fucking Qatar and slavery and the shit they do. So we don't care about human rights. So since we're not actually going around the world trying to be altruistic and making everybody abide by human rights, well then why are we even pretending that that's the motive here for North Korea? That's not the case. So since that's not the case, you can't trust our motives. Well, what are we going to do? What do you do? The best you could hope for is to just stabilize the situation and make sure you do what's right by the American people. And for the American people, if you're fucking threatening this guy, you're making the situation more dangerous. You're making the situation more dangerous not just for the American people, but for our allies also. So if you can't open up the lines of communication and do diplomacy, well, then you do nothing. Because he's not going to launch an offensive attack. He's just not going to do it. The only attack he would ever launch, again, is if feels like he's in a corner and it's inevitable that the U.S. or South Korea or Japan or somebody is going to do something against him, in which case he would act in a defensive way because he knows deep down my puny little fucking country can't stand up against the largest military the world has ever seen ever. So we have to stop pretending that he has offensive military goals. And what Donald Trump is doing here is like he's acting like Kim Jong-un just woke up one day and was like, yeah, let me throw some fucking darts at a map of the United States, and that's the place I'm going to bomb, and, you know, I'm coming next Wednesday to do so. And so he's like, no, fire and fury will rain down on you with power the world has never seen. Why would you make him feel more cornered? Why would you make him feel more on edge? Why would you escalate the situation in terms of tension? Why would you, put everybody on alert and push us closer to some sort of military disaster? That's literally the last thing you should ever do. Ever. Ever. God, he's so fucking stupid, man. It's one man-child dictator and another man-child president who didn't win the popular vote. So, yeah, watching this whole situation unfold has just been scary. That's what it's been. Because, again, if you can't open up the lines of communication to do some sort of diplomacy, you do absolutely nothing. Because he has no incentive to give up any weapons he may have. Because when we got Gaddafi to give up his weapons, we went in there and bombed his ass anyway. So the lesson to take away from that, if you're Kim Jong-un, is, if I ever give up my weapons, the Americans will come and topple me. So now I know I'm never going to give up my weapons. So when we say to him, no, give up your weapons, bro, and everything will be cool, he goes, no, that's bullshit. I'm not going to give up my weapons. As long as I have these weapons, then it's a harder thing for you to do to come topple me. But if I give them up, then it's super easy. That's what you did with Gaddafi. So the idea that he has these weapons as a deterrent, while it's totally in corporate media circles, saying that is like, oh my God, they think you're the craziest person ever. But it's actually something many of our generals know. And they've admitted that. They go, yeah, that's the lesson he learned from Libya and Gaddafi. The lesson is, if you have nukes, don't give them up. And if you don't have them, get them. Because he feels like that's the only way to guarantee that his government stays intact and there is no regime change. And then on top of that, of course, we have to bring up that the U.S. killed over 1 million North Koreans not that long ago. And again, the idea that when we huff and puff and talk about how we're going to rain fire and fury on people, see, when we say it, we usually follow it up. We usually actually do it. You know? So that's what our record shows post-World War II. We go intervene fucking everywhere. When North Korea says it, it's nothing. Their military budget is 37 cents and a Pop-Tart. So what the fuck? So you got to go in the opposite direction here. And again, so just a random side note. This is really a side point to the meat of this discussion, but also, like, nobody is talking about, whoa, wait a second, now we're on the verge of another war Well, that's not a good idea just for financial reasons. You know, we got 7 interventions going on right now, 2 full-scale wars. Nobody ever says when it comes to war, you know, the costs. I don't know if we have the nickels and dimes to pull this one off. Whenever it's, you know, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, programs for you, everybody's like, oh my God, we got to get financial stability. We got to be fiscal conservatives. We got to be deficit hawks. Oh my God, we got to save money. We don't have the money for it. We simply don't have the money to do things for people, for the American people. But when it comes to North Korea, nobody has ever brought up in the context of this conversation, geez, look, we're moving towards another escalation. We probably shouldn't just for fiscal reasons. I mean, giant debt, giant deficit. Half the country's poor. I mean, what? Shit, what are we going to do, man? Let's not do that. We got to save our money. So, many aspects of this piss me off, and you can only hope cooler heads will prevail, but with Donald Trump being Donald Trump, and of course he surrounded himself by vicious, foaming at the mouth neocons, it doesn't look good.